question that I have, because we were talking about this earlier, we're both in colder climates right now. I'm out in Buffalo and you're out in Colorado.
Yeah.
What if somebody's watching this and they're in the same situation? What is your recommendation for them? They just can't get out on the bike outside. I mean, for me, before I got into this, I didn't even know anything about any kind of spin bikes or anything. Like, if somebody's just getting into it, what would you tell them?
Well, I mean, you have to train indoors, and so you have to either, buy a trainer and set it up in your basement, like I was today for, a couple hours, or you can, go to a gym that has some spin bikes or something like that. But basically, you're going to have to do the work indoors. If you look at the schedule, and it's not up on the screen right now, but if you look at the schedule, you'll notice that, in the first months of this program, the most you're ever going to do is 2 hours. So you can see that, all the way through not until week 10 are you actually doing more than 2 hours. So everything that is on the first like 8 weeks should get you, it should be doable indoors. Because you can ride indoors up to 2 hours. At 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, that's a lot tougher to do indoors. And I think that by hopefully, if you started this program right, 22 weeks away from the Empire State Ride, generally you're going to be fine by the time you get to 7 or 8 weeks. It's going to be outdoor riding.
As far as just like more so, physically training for this off the bike, we don't have to go too far into the weeds on that, but are there any basic exercises or parts of the body anatomy that people should be thinking about if they're just trying to like, hey, should I do some squats? Should I do some wall sits? Like what's going to be helpful if somebody's got time to dictate and dedicate to that?
Yeah, you can do some gym work, really simple. I mean, if you're doing strength or resistance training, specifically for cycling, it's really only three exercises that you need to do that are specific. Squats that addresses the hip, the leg presses that addresses kind of the quads and the knee joint a little bit. And then leg curls, to address, the flexion of the knee joint. And so basically, that's all you need to do is those three exercises. The other thing that you should be doing is really doing a lot of core work. And of course, squats is going to help with that a little bit. It's going to make your core stronger. But core work is something you can do all the time, year round. But if you're going to do a period of resistance training, those three exercises are all you need to do. And then if you're going to do a resistance training program, you got to kind of like 10 to 12 weeks, allocate about 10 to 12 weeks, because you got to go through a period of adaptation where you're doing those exercises with very lightweight, just to make sure your form is really good. And then you're going to go through a short period of hypertrophy, which is the period where you're actually going to grow a little bit of muscle mass. And then after that period, you're going to go through a strength period where you're going to learn how to recruit that new muscle. And then finally, a little period of power where you're going to move you're going to move those joints very quickly using those exercises. And it's like power. It's like a lot of weight and a lot of speed through it as well. So that's kind of like the gist of a typical resistance training program for cyclists.
Okay. Last question on that is, let's say you're looking at a 22-week training plan like this, does that like kind of tail off at a certain point because of the amount of cycling that you're going to be doing is increased, or like how does that work time frame wise into a training plan?
Yeah, that 12-week period is really specific and probably should be added to the beginning of the 22 weeks. You could probably get away with, doing some of those exercises twice a week in the first 4 weeks of the plan as it is, but it's best to really, just use that period for resistance training. And the bike part of that will be basically, sometime before, 30 minutes, let's say, before you do your exercises, and 30 minutes afterwards, after you do exercise. So you'll be doing about an hour of bike work and about an hour of gym work, probably even a little less than an hour of gym work. And that would be how you would, do the resistance training. And then, of course, as you progress through those different types of strength and power phases, there are specific things that you want to do on the bike that supports that same type of movement. So when you're doing power, you'll be doing some sprints on the bike. So something that is, going to create a lot of power. When you're doing strength training, the strength portion of it, you're going to be doing some specific work on the bike that complements that as well.
Okay.
So it's not in the plan here, but again, this is where, one-on-one, this is where getting, having a coach, can really customize things for you a lot more.
And the thing that I didn't realize from the first year of talking with you is that you can have a coach that lives across the world with the technology that's available. So some people might not be familiar with what are they called, like power pedals or power meters on your pedals, right?
Yeah, that's right. Everything, coaching right now is like remote-based coaching is very, very popular. It's really the industry standard. And what we do is we basically take the data from whatever you have on your bike that is collecting data. It could be a power meter and a heart rate monitor, or it could be just a heart rate monitor, but you're also getting GPS information. You're getting cadence and speed, um, uh, all the intervals. You can see everything on coaching management software. And it's really incredible. The only thing you can't do is ride with the athlete. But for example, the two Empire State Riders that I'm working with now, one lives in New Hampshire, and the other one lives in New York, is close to Buffalo, actually.